Failing banks. So it's definitely not a term that we want in headlines basically ever, but that's what we've got in the headlines right now in the last couple weeks. We've seen some pretty big banks go under, and then it's also the second biggest bailout by the government ever in our history. But one thing I did notice in this past week, as you probably seen and followed along through my quick hits, is usually I try to see what the feel is, from the media, but then also just the feel of retirees, because that's who you're marketing and trying to bring on as new clients, and what is their feeling around some big news like this. And most of the time the media, drives on fear. But what I did notice in the last week or two, and even today, you just go into some of the big media outlets, and the whole bailout is not even on front pages of websites, which is really interesting, because if you look back to 2008, this is just more of my memory of it. There was a much bigger deal when the government was bailing out these banks. And there could be a lot of reasons for this. One, we just don't want people pulling a lot of money out of banks and make more fail. There could be a lot of reasons, and I'm not a speculator, so that's not my job, but more of a marketer, right? And taking a look at what are your prospects and clients feeling right now, and how you can help them, to and through their retirement. And one thing, I was actually just talking with my mom the other day, and I just happened to say something about the banks failing, and she responded and said, "Well, it was only one small bank, wasn't it?" And I was like, "No, actually, it's quite a few, and one of the second largest bailout ever." And she just didn't know. And they're fairly well, in the know about the news and things like that. So I thought that was really interesting from her take to think that it was just a small bank that failed, when in reality we know that it was a much larger deal than that, and it's a much larger deal for the government to bail them out. And so I just thought that was an interesting, obviously one case study, right? You have to take that with a grain of salt, but just something to take a look at, that your clients might not be knowing the full news. And so I included a few good articles in here that kind of explain what happened and what is going on right now with the banks. And then you use as an opportunity to put them into maybe something even more safer, quote unquote, than a bank, right? An insurance company. Maybe there's some other investments that they can be putting their money into, rather than some of these banks that are, deposit and withdrawal heavy right now. There's a lot of activity in it, not to put the fear in them, but at the same time, so if all these other banks are failing, there's other good opportunities out there. So anyways, hope you enjoy the quick hits. Let me know if I can do anything to help. Have a great week.